spatial control as an operator when you're running up against light armor, it's still enough to hit you off on one shot.
Well, we're going to be starting off here with Envy on the defense. And of course, this is just a pistol round. So taking a look at these defaults, we're going to have the Reyna and the Omen over towards the A side, going to be holding there. And of course, FNS chilling in mid here. They don't want to give up mid control too easily. And well, Sova on B, name a more iconic duo, am I right?
Well, he doesn't quite have the Odin just yet. So that duo is only going to become more iconic as these rounds progress. As we're just waiting for T1 to make a move. Oh, skadoodle run right into FNS, but the trade is there.
That was fantastic play there, pushing through onto mid, using those smokes for a little bit of utility. FNS was the only man holding in mid, and now as we see T1 pushing onto point, they've managed to bring themselves to a 4v2. This is fantastic numbers for them. And they're just not stopping yet, continuing to shut down this defense. Haven't planted the spike just yet. Seems to be playing very... Oh my goodness, they've given up so much time and space. And Mummay able to get the kill onto Brax. Now it's a 1v2. They do eventually take him down, but my goodness, they took their time with that one.
Something we should really quickly talk about as well is that Envy don't have a jet. This is a Sen, and they're running with a Phoenix and a Reyna. In fact, they've even got Mummay on that Omen, so you have a lot of control over how the enemy operator is going to operate with those smokes, where you just, you know, cloak down that space, that sightline to immediately shut it down and force them away. But you're going to be relying on the Reyna instead, and yes, she has survivability, but she doesn't have anywhere near the mobility, at least in terms of upwards.
And now that T1 have won the first pistol round, they will buy a little bit, and we've got a split push here. One moving through catwalk just to deny some space there. Brax, of course, on the lurk, manages to get two! That is ridiculous! Just chilling down on B side. He is absolutely clear. And of course, they'll get a follow-up kill over on the A side as well. Last man standing for Envy. That's the round. That's a pretty solid offense from T1.
They know exactly where he is too. Spider's just gonna shut the door on him. And that plan should be coming through. If you're FNS, you just want to try and keep yourself intact. Better yet, take one member from T1 out before you can to try and cripple that economy. Because right now you've lost 2 rounds in a row. And that means you're going to be going into this third phase, this very important round. That we tend to see teams, that's the reason why a lot of people always eat the push on that second round, right? Because they want to be better set up for this one that's now beginning, but because you haven't been able to cripple T1, you can already see some members from Envy still have not been able to fully invest. They've managed to get weapons, sure, but they've got Kaboose running on light armor.
But it does give them a little bit of an advantage because, of course, they're going full rifles, whereas T1 opting, of course, to hold on to the Spectres that they had from the previous round. And again, we've got the split push here. We got AZK over in mid this time, supporting Brax towards the B site. A little bit slow, a little bit more methodical this time around. Not wanting to push in unnecessarily, give away too much information. The spike is, of course, more towards A, and they're waiting for that information to know that it's safe to push. They've given up mid here, which isn't the worst thing in the world, especially because Envy seem to think that it's going to be a mid to B push.
T1 just looking to get on this A site. Drone is out, they're just getting a lot of information. There's only an Omen, and now with Sova rotating over to Rafters. If you're T1, you can absolutely press in on this, and they want to, but the second that they start to make a move, they have to get in so quick. Because as soon as Envy see that spike on A, they're going to go for this rotation. That Reyna can be so very deadly if she's able to catch you out, but they get T1 so hesitant. They don't want to commit, but their hesitation is actually get off dividend for them. Envy think the rotation's going to come through, and that's Sova's abandoned his post.
And they've managed to get the first pick onto the A site. Spider teleports onto site and throws out the smokes to give themselves a little bit of dark cover here as he goes for the plant. But of course, the drone is coming through to catch some sites. Spike will go down. We're looking for post-plant positions here from T1. Can they hold this down? Who manages to take down AZK? Manages to get 2. And he still has the hot hand, so that's some healing available and the wall up to deny some sight lines. This is still very winnable for Envy at a 3v2. And we've got Dazed so far away. Does have the Hunter's Fury available. And since the spike has gone down, he's holding on to that, waiting for the sound of the DPUs to come through. There's the sound. And there's the Hunter's Fury. Does he manage to get one? Manages to ding just one. Doesn't get the kill, and the defuse comes through. A little bit too much faith in his omen there on site, and isn't able to secure and deny the defuse.
It's not so much lost faith as it is positioning. Spider just got completely separated on dephh. That blaze wall just did not allow him to get back into that fight in time. And even though the Hunter's Fury comes out, it didn't manage to pick up anything, and it didn't manage to cancel the defuse either. Crashies going to be on that B site. Could potentially go for some very aggressive plays, going to try and get that recon bolt right through the window. Same as we always see Slovers try and play. In fact, it's going to be the shock dart this time around. As T1 think they can still go mid, and Envy really not a lot of control that right now.
Oh, that's fantastic. Spider teleports himself up onto that top side. Really should have seen that one coming, but you never know when it's going to be there. You know that realistically it can be there, but you never know for sure that it will be. And that's a good first pick for T1. As yes, as you said, it looks like they're going for a push through mid. Now they're going to have to contest with Food and his curveballs. There's a dark cover here just to give them a little bit of space, but Food opting to push out. He's got the owl drone. He'll have the information from crashies. We'll be able to tell him exactly what's happening as he opts not to push through. Spike moving back through catwalk towards A site. They knew they got one pick on A site. Envy seemed to have a read on this as we see crashies moving towards A site as well, kind of lingering in the spawn. Oh no, he's moving back towards B. They haven't read it.
In fact, they're moving even further away from A. Sam, this is absolutely devastating. T1 don't know that there is totally
30
no
seconds
on the side
left.
of Envy. And in fact, they're even throwing out so much utility. Flashpoint coming out. But T1, they're using everything for absolutely nothing. They can just get this for free.
Well, I suppose they didn't know that. They didn't really have too much utility to work with there, which is surprising. They've got a Sova and a Cypher. They must have... Either they'd already used all of that utility previously, or they just didn't want to risk anything. And of course, the Cypher, as I say that, Brax is on the other side of the map. He's chilling in mid somewhere. So they didn't really have that information available to them, didn't want to risk it. They throw out the Rolling Thunder, and Envy, they're just going to save. They realize they do not have the numbers. There is literally no point in going for this. They're just going to hang out on B side, hold each other's backs, and keep hold of those guns.
Yeah, both teams going for the very much commit absolutely everything to make sure that you're going to be able to get yourself into this round as nicely as possible. Envy managing to keep 3 players alive, and now they can really try and contest T1, because something that we're seeing is Envy just don't have control of this mid in the way that defense on Ascent really want control of mid. They don't have the weaponry to try and stand up to try and stem T1's aggression. Instead, they have to wait and see what T1 want to push onto mid and then react with utilities like that owl drum, like that dark cover that we got to see come out. But they still haven't been able to get enough points, enough kills to be able to afford that one weapon that is immediately going to be a massive turning point in this defense and how T1 is going to be able to actually commit onto these points. And that's the operator.
And Envy really need to win this round because their economy is somewhat in a shambles. They're kind of forcing here to try and give themselves an edge as they push through, but we need to bear in mind, Brax and Spider are 1 ult point away from having their ultimates. That's the neural threat and the teleport, and that's so good for bait and switch potential. And knowing T1, I mean, I've seen some fantastic combos that they've managed to pull through here, so there's definitely potential here for them to use that as well. We're going to be going for the mid control here. We spoke about that. It's very, very important. But Envy putting a little bit more bodies in mid here, and Food immediately get a pick off onto Skadoodle, and that is bad news for T1. They're not going to have that jet available for the entry, and they don't have another duelist. They've got the Breach who can potentially entry, but this is going to make it really difficult for them to get onto site without some sort of a bait.
Well, they're waiting to figure out what exact point they want to try and push on. Seems like it's going to be that B push already moving for Pizza into market. Crashies thinks he has movement in B main, and that is the Cypher creating so much noise. Envy think they're coming from a completely different angle. This is that same bait and switch that you talked about.
30 seconds
really
left.
Being quite masterful at pulling off.
But T1 are playing this very well, and Envy playing very safe here, keeping bodies everywhere. Now that recon bolt's going to give a little bit of information. Mummay's in a little bit of trouble there as we see T1 pushing all the way into the spawn here. Well, the spike makes its way towards side, but gets taken down by crashies all the way from the back of side. Gets wall banged through. Now spike has just been picked up by Brax. Basically man alone. He's got AZK beside him to back him up, but they do realize that there will be a push from spawn. Or at least they expect it. Not that it matters. They took way too long, and isn't that the story of these two teams, Mark?
Absolutely. T1 can be very hesitant, and they take a very long time deciding which point they actually want to properly commit onto. But now if you're Envy, you don't have to be quite as slow. You were able to get that round, we talked about it, that was one of the rounds that you absolutely had to win to try and equalize that economy, and now they're coming in heavy armor and rifles. So they can finally try and go for a little bit more aggression. Whether they want to peek out from A main, or whether we're going to see a little bit more of that mid control coming out.
Ooh.
Looks like it's going to be nice.
Cage triggered.
Recon bolt spots out Brax. Shock dart won't get any value. Surprising that we don't see crashies running the Odin this time around, but they know that Brax is there, so they're going to be holding on to that, suspecting a potential B push. This time around, however, they're going back to their default. They've got 3 moving towards A. Oh, the fire through the cage. Spider reads that so well. And now they've made a ton of noise on A, so we can already see the rotation. They're kind of half committing. They're not sure if they want to pull the rotation just yet, because of course they know that T1 have been doing this kind of bait and switch thing. And we kind of saw that coming because of course the spike was always on B. It was never anywhere near A. They 3-stacked A just in case there was some sort of utility gathering or information gathering utility there to make it seem like they were going to go for the A push. But they're going for the B here. It's a hard stack. And there's still 2 players of Envy just chilling over on the A side. If T1 push now, they should be able to get the plant.
30 seconds left.
Move in and quickly, there's only 30 seconds left. And Envy are going to be doing their absolute darndest to delay the fight as long as they possibly can so reinforcements can rotate from A.
Great work from T1 here. They moved decisively, which is somewhat different for T1. We're kind of used to them playing very, very safe. And yeah, last 2 players from Envy, they're just like, yeah, you know what? Let's go hang out on A. A's really beautiful this time of year, Moxie. I don't know if you've been there, but it's a pretty place.
I don't know, maybe send me a postcard next time Envy decide to save there, because they're trying to keep those phantoms safe. They know that they just came off of a bad buy round and they don't want their economy to be back in that unfavorable position, because yes, you have advantage when you're on that defending side. You have all of the space that the attackers are trying to move on for absolute free, and to be honest, you can sometimes just pick a corner and wait for them to move past you, and if they don't spot you, that will result in a pick. But the second you start losing all of these weaponry fights and you're lacking that firepower, T1 is going to get a lot more aggressive. And aggressive teams on attack, on ascent, are so hard to shut down if you're not able to withstand the spray that comes in from afar before the fight properly starts.
And kind of feeling for Envy right now, we haven't seen the operator come out at all. And it's just because their economy has not lent itself to that buy. I mean, Mummay can buy one, but at this point in the game, you don't want to opt into that just yet. You don't want to potentially ruin your economy. And if we take a look at the ultimates available here.
Get out of my way!
Skadoodle has got the knives. And as I say that, knives get popped. Doesn't go in too aggressive this time. This is more of a defensive ultimate, kind of preemptively. As they start to push onto site, he's going to be expecting to need to use that. But again, slow and steady is the name of the game here. Hunter's Fury will come out as well. Doesn't manage to get anything, but tries a little bit of space. Skadoodle gets taken down mid-knife. Food manages to get a follow-up onto the Spider as well. And that is the majority of T1 completely dismantled. 5v3. Oh my goodness, Food, that's illegal. Goes for such a ballsy play with the run it back. Knows that he can survive it. Pushes straight through the smoke. Brax manages to get a pick onto Envy. Pretty good, knowing that their economy isn't the best right now. But at a 2v5 situation, I'm not sure. Make that a 1v5.
Well, maybe count that number again, Sam. Brax got just completely separated again. Envy do such a good job of this, of just separating T1's forces. Because that hot hand just completely relegated that Cypher. into that corner the entire point. Now we're going to see Envy feel confident enough that that point difference isn't quite as large as it's been these previous rounds. Now they think it's time to go for that operator. It's going to be Mummay that's picking up, normally playing the Jet for this team, so no surprise there. But you don't have that survivability. It's not the same as a Jet where you can just tailwind out if you don't manage to hit the shot. Just the same as with the Reyna, if you manage to hit the shot, you can't use your Devour to try and keep your health bar up as you hightail it out.
And of course, T1 making a lot of noise on A, making it look like it's going to be an A hit. And as the spike slowly makes its way towards A, it looks like, yes, it might in fact be, but they need to be careful. Caboose has Empress ready to pop at any moment. And of course, Mummay chilling there with the operator, just waiting for someone to push through. I don't believe Mummay has fired a shot yet. So they don't know that the operator is in play on A just yet. And that's always a dangerous position to be in. But T1 seem to have realized this is a dangerous place to be. They've made a ton of noise. They've done their due diligence. It's time to move out towards B sites. With the Phoenix wall having just gone down, they know that that's no longer in play. And they have an opportunity to try and push through.
Envy aren't getting antsy on their defense though. They're holding this really nice split angle. Look at that coverage on B. Sova and Breach in Sova and Phoenix rather in unity. So the second one of them gets spotted out,
30
the other
seconds
one can
left.
immediately try to make that move. T1 being a little bit more cautious once again, leaving themselves not a lot to do there.
That's a huge hunting fury that comes through there, but actually doesn't manage to get any player. Really surprising. Food continues to be the MVP of this team, manages to get 3. That's a lot of cleanup from Envy. And once again, T1 just taking a little bit too long on that trigger finger. They're pushing in really slowly. They seem uncertain of where they, which site they want to hit and how they want to do it. They do a lot of baiting, a lot of faking, but they don't follow through once they've done that. And because they take so long, Envy have time to rotate, and Envy's retake positions have been so good. We'll take a look at this replay here. Food. Oh man, he actually dies trying to get a different gun because he runs out of bullets. So thank you, GoPuff, for that fantastic replay. We'll head back into the game here. Crashies still not running that Odin, much to my chagrin. We'll see, maybe he brings that up later on.
It is a pretty predictable play though, when you can see that T1 really don't like pushing B main early on in the round because of how known that Sova is. Instead they're going to go quite, no hesitation, right into A site,
Deploying
full
drone.
stacking, and Envy just are not left with time to blink.
T1, oh no, Dazed has the operator, misses the shot, and Crashies is able to follow up and get that kill. Now Food on the lurk, he wants to be coming around through A main. And no one's watching it right now. Spider might turn to check. Oh, the shots fired there will give away his position. He does use the run it back to get a little bit of information. Hasn't spotted out anything just yet. Not able to get a kill. The run it back forces him back out of sight. The last 2 players are watching this entry for dear life. The jump peek just to get the information. That was never going anywhere.
Did they manage to pick the operator up though? That's the big question, Sam.
I don't think
It looked
so.
like they just
it would have been on
as
Brax
soon
to pick
as
it up,
they could.
and oh sorry, not Brax, AZK. Nah, he didn't get it.
Nah.
The moment was
Mummy's
too
got
tense,
another
Moxie.
one. Mummy's got another one, and now with your Envy, I'm still waiting to see this very aggressive peak with that operator where you immediately try and pick up that first frag and force the attacking side to either full save, where they just don't want to push in on a point with one member already down, or they just go aggressive and they make mistakes.
The aggressive off is
Going to
very
flip, but they're going
difficult
up
to
against
do when you're on the omen, though.
Yeah. They sense that there's an operator, they heard the shot, and Skadoodle's doing everything he possibly can to try and close up that distance so the operator becomes far less powerful.
Beautiful wallbang there. Skadoodle manages to take down the recon bolt, but it's not enough. He knows exactly, well, Foodie knows exactly where Skadoodle is, and that's, again, the entry is down. And I gotta say, I gotta point out, T1, when they push in aggressively, they do really well. And that's because we know Envy tends to be a slightly more passive team. So why T1 aren't opting for really aggressive plays is surprising or baffling, I suppose is the word to use here. But they are going for that mid control this time again. And let's see if it works out a little bit better for them. The door has already been closed and Brax is bringing up the rear on a little bit of a lurk towards B main. There's still a 3 stack on A. So again, if they push through aggressively before the rotate comes through, they have a chance to get onto site.
30 seconds left.
Careful now.
Well, and we know the push is coming on B, but they're still keeping a presence on A. And we're gonna see that unfair number fight.
Enemy down.
T1 has all of the advantages, but they don't have the natural cover. The boathouse is able to find the safety to pick one of them off. But
10 seconds left.
Because that rotation is coming through so late now, it's the question of getting that recontest. Caboose is going to use the lid to try and crush anyone out and get themselves safely in, but no one's actually caught out by it.
Brings it down to 2v2. Omens versus Ciphers. It all comes down to this. The 2 lurking boys. One has an operator but misses the shot. There's a lot of smoke in the way. He has smokes and cages abound.
One enemy
of the 9 sight lines, and while that's happening, the time is ticking down. Spider will pick up his 3rd
player
of the
remaining.
round. 1 man standing. Mummay will take down Spider. Oh, the fake. He's gonna run out of time though. Oh, he's gonna find him in the front! Like ships in the night! And it's Brax that's able to get the 180 takedown Mummay.
Picks up the up tier.
Survives the bomb.
Picks up the up. Mummay actually traded in the up. Goes for the phantom. It's still hard to go for that recontest. That really close quarters fight with an upward. If you miss that one shot, that reload animation is grueling. It's excruciatingly long. But now we're gonna see both sides have an operator. Both sides can make a play for mid. And already Mummay is in a much more aggressive position on this defense than we've seen in a very long time. Go and try and find that first pick immediately.
Once again, moving back to their kind of comfortable default, where they've got the A split push and the Cypher all the way towards B, lurking that side.
Nowhere to run!
This is a beautiful camera from FNS. Interesting when Fury comes up. It doesn't really have any information to back it up, but he does manage to get a few things. FNS times that so perfectly, swings out as the Hunter's Fury ends, but it's not enough to secure the site. Spike has been picked up once again. Mummay gets forced out by the Aftershock. And a nice dark cover there to deny the sight lines as well. Plant is good. It's a 4v3 here. And these post-plant positions are vital. I love seeing that Skadoodle's moved all the way into wine. We're going to see Phoenix pushing up here. Oh, Skadoodle spotted him out, called it out. Doesn't need to call it out, gets the kill. It's the 4v2, and now Crashies and Food. Or Crashies and Mummay, rather. They're going to need to save.
Envy wanted to go for that sort of pincer movement. They wanted to have presence on A main. But because Skadoodle was keeping a watchful eye on A1, you just weren't able to set up that cross angle. And so all Envy can do is just rotate out, keep the weapons, keep them from the shadows, and find themselves another point behind T1.
And this is yet another round where Envy go in hard, go in aggressive, and win the round. Because Envy
Last round in the half
to react. Now this is the important thing, right? So this is the last round before the swap. Everybody's going in hard. We've got Blade Storm online for Skadoodle. We've got Teleport. We've got Neural Theft for Envy. There's a lot of ultimates to use here. But it's last round. And when things swap up, this is where the real test of metal is going to be. So we'll get through this last round, and it's imperative for Envy to get another point on the board here. They're already in a good spot in terms of how many points they have, but they want to just give themselves a little bit more of an edge coming into the second half.
No, you want to talk about good points. T1 have managed to gain 7 on their attacking range. Lovely for that rank block. They want to pick up his 8. This one already popped. Moves in aggressively and trying to pick. Dazed is able to search out wine and picks out Caboose, and that signals the way to T1 to very safely.
One enemy remaining.
To A, they've got control on rafters, they've got control of main. Spike can easily get there as poor old Food is left out in courtyard to try and keep himself alive.
Oh. Ooh, actually manages to get a kill.
Spike planted.
Not quite able to get the second. He does, of course, know that there is one person there. Oh! The information gets fed to Spider, and he just hard holds that angle. And that's
switching
one
sides.
More round in the bag for T1. And do I need to say it, Moxie? Another aggressive round for T1 that works out.
And unfortunately for Envy as well, it's so easy to just chain together points when you're on the defense. We've seen it happen time and time again. Teams come in with, what, 4 rounds accrued on their attack, and they're still able to win. T1 are coming in with 8.
Oh man, this was so spicy from Brax, that lurk. And this ballsy play from Food. There have been some amazing plays here from these players as we move into our second half. Thank you once again, GoPuff, for, you know, powering up these replays. We wouldn't be able to do it without you.
If you want to talk about power up, I have to say both Omens, but Envy and T1 have been doing such a good job when it comes to these dark covers. That's been a big reason why we haven't been seeing as much operator kills as you would expect, and that's the reason as well why Envy are currently completely avoiding going mid-market. They just don't want to go into those dark covers. So T1, yes, they've lost the player, but they've got enough time to actually get the rotation when they see where Envy is heading.
Envy looking solid here for this very first pistol round. They do manage to get the spike down, and now it's all about post-plant positions, and they have every angle covered. Cypher in the tree with Omen for some good backup there. The rest are playing more on site. Nobody holding... Oh, there we go. There's the Sova out in wine, so we've got that covered as well. They have every possible angle covered here, and it's going to be so difficult when the entirety of T1 are trying to funnel through heaven.
One enemy remaining.
Spots out the recon ball before he's able to get it off. That gives all the information in the world to Envy, and they just clean up.
That's the risk when you use that much utility very early on in the round. You just don't have it if it comes to that question of the recon test. Because they suffered. They all funneled themselves through rafters. If they'd had a dark cover, then it would have been much easier to be able to safely pass through rafters and onto point and properly try and challenge Envy. But because they don't, because they just don't have anything left in the bank to actually try and obscure the line of sight, except a blast point, which should be comes in a little bit late. Envy are just able to keep a hold of that position, keep a hold of that sight line, and completely choke them out.
Now, Brax has bought a shorty this round, but he's not holding anywhere angled that he can get off some quick fire shots, you know, like in a choke point, like you might do with a Bucky. So that's interesting to note. This is slightly different to what we've seen from Brax in the past.
Revealing area.
Let's see if that does manage to bear fruit, as we've got a 4-man stack for T1 over towards the A site, and it's just the lone dazed over here on B. The door starts to come down.
Deploying drone.
Spider way back, walking
Oh,
around
Sam.
with that spike.
Look at B! Look at the
This is what I'm
presence
saying.
of
There's
B.
more stack on B, and there's no one there. And we've even got Dazed starting to rotate. He's kind of pushing through mid here, but there's literally nothing on the B site to hold anything back. They're expecting an A hit. That's what came through in the last round. But
Well,
bearing in mind, this is them.
Right here.
But this is also them pulling back, right? They're going for
Spike
retake.
planted.
So they give up the B site, and now they push through as a team. What's important here is, do they push in impatiently, or do they wait until everyone's in position? That's what's going to make the difference.
Q1, do you even go for this? They were full stacking A, they were hoping, they were rolling the dice, they'd already lost that last round, they were coming in on a broken buy. They're committing to this, but they're just dying sadly and alone. Someone get this team a stat nav, they've been lost all around the map, because it's understandable, right? When you're in that position, you lose that first round after swap, you don't have the best economy, you've got to try and roll the dice, full stack on a point, and hope that the other team is going to be coming to that position. It doesn't happen. You've got a 50-50 chance, this isn't Haven, there's only 2 points to play around with. But when it doesn't happen, you've just got to accept that. You can't try and move halfway across the map to get to a point where you have absolutely zero control of any of the space because you've given up absolutely every single angle willingly. Make a decision.
And now, there's the Odin play from Daze. We were waiting for it on the previous round, or the previous half. It finally will come out, but starts to fire a little too early. I don't think the recon bolt came out, didn't really have any information there. But Spider managing to get a pick off from Cubby, and that's huge. It does get traded out though, but it gives a ton of information as well. Got the paranoia ready to pop. opt not to use it now. Instead, they'll have the cage. And of course, there is the notification if someone moves through the cage. They wait for it to expire. And now Envy just fall back. And this is yet another example of how Envy play really, really slowly. They're trying to be methodical, and I can appreciate that as they start to move towards the A site. They know that there's at least a 2-stack over in mid, and it is a 4v4. So because they're the attackers, that does favor them to an extent because they're pushing together as a unit. They need to make something happen here. They've spotted out Brax.
Cage trigger.
You've got to go fast because you may have spotted out that cypher, but now that it's over.
30 seconds left.
They're waiting to move into position on rafters. SNS.
Spike planted.
With that Spectre is going to try and keep a hold of that one, but it is so hard if you don't have the superior firepower to win that fight.
One enemy remaining.
Against you in all of tier 1. They're just able to keep a hold, keep themselves out of line of sight as SNS. He's going to be able to hit days, but that's all he's going to be able to get as tier 1. Managed to pick up a 9th point and set themselves up finally on this defense.
Envy had a really good attack there. I say really good. Okay, hold up. So I definitely was concerned, and I expressed the concern about how slowly they pushed. But once they actually decided to execute, they got onto the site, they had some good angles. They didn't waste too much time because they were still able to actually get the bombs off. And that's what's so important there. They made it difficult for T1 to, you know, make a comeback. And the A side is so hard to take on, particularly if you've got the entire team funneling through heaven. We've seen it time and time again. So Envy in that regard did well, but I want to see them play a little bit faster because T1, they're just playing really well here. They had a pretty solid offense, particularly when they rushed, and they're having a pretty good defense here as well.
I really love as well that T1 has got a lot of control right now in the main. But on A as well, they've even got a presence on mid, where they're making sure that every single place that Envy tries to approach, they're going to be spotted out.
Again, they're going for a...
Shotgun.
It's kind of their default here. Split push, 3 towards A, 2 towards B.
Destroyed.
But the spike is moving towards A as well, and of course they're running into a 3-stack. And they forced out a lot of utility from Envy's Phoenix. He had to use the hot hands and the wall just to heal himself. And that's not ideal. Of course, the hot hands will come back online, but that's kind of it, you know? It doesn't have that wall
Only half
anymore.
of Envy's team is online at the moment, though. They've got the Cypher. They've got the Phoenix as well,
the
but they're
push.
still waiting for these reinforcements to
You're
come on
dead.
through before they can properly push. And T1 haven't actually rotated quite yet, and we do have a window to get in there.
30 seconds left.
That recontest to come through. They just want to plant and actually stand that timer, and then they can move back into those repositions underneath hell. So T1 can't just go for Raptors play. They've got to drop down and properly contest this.
Envy push onto site with the run it back, and that is huge. They're able to get in, but oh my goodness, what is this Odin spread? Almost manages to get to. They're exceptionally low, and all it takes is skadoodle and get the cleanup. Backed up by, of course, AZK. They push on the point, and unfortunately, those post-plant positions just not going to be enough here for Envy. And this is where T1's slow and steady approach really works out for them. The plant comes in, they don't rush in impatiently. That has been a tale throughout this tournament. Teams that push out way too impatiently. They wait a little bit, they move in as a team, they're able to get the defuse.
I mean, that Odin play was straight up demonic, and Dazed is going to keep a hold of that very weapon, because we're seeing it has utility not just on that very original aspect of B main, but it also really forces the other team to not hide behind those covers. You can't just hole up in hell, otherwise you are going to get absolutely shredded through that wall. Okay, let's just begin things once again with that Poland spray. Skadoodle's actually even in the corner of B main. So T1 doubling down on this defense. Unfortunately for them though, Envy isn't any familiar.
Well, T1 they should be aware that it's an anti-eco. Envy are running in with like sheriffs and not much else to their name here. So they're just gonna kind of monkey in and get themselves ready for the next round. And this is a perfect example of what happens on an eco round. You rush in, you try and get some exit frags. Crashies manages to take down one, but you know, anti-eco is what it is.
They're coming in with a couple of ultimates. unfortunately for Envy, they're also very conditional and situational. Right, with the Reyna, we often see a lot of Reynas hold on to that ult, the Empress, until they're actually able to get that first pick, so you can have the full extent of the ultimate benefit using the Devour, using even your invisibility and fades to get up close without being punished. Hunter's Fury too, you can pop at the beginning of the round, but then you're working on Ghastwork. It's much easier, much more rewarding the longer you hold on to it. Skadoodle's not even going to wait, just going to dash straight into A main with that Blade Storm and find
One
absolutely
enemy remaining.
nothing. What was it we were praising about T1 before in their patience and how it's going to be rewarded?
I mean, they had the ultimates, they tried to push out aggressively. That may have worked had that not been a full A hit. I think if it had only been like 1 or 2 people there and not 4, Skadoodle may have gotten away with that. But unfortunately, he dashes out into an enemy team. And the swing from the rest of his team is good. Brax doesn't look behind him, gets taken down. And that's finally a point on the board here for Envy. They had to wait, they had to eco it out last round, but they were able to buy, you know, the last round. And this time around, it looks like they're going for... This is a difficult situation for Caboose. He has to force to keep up with the rest of his team, but that puts him on 0. Thankfully, next round, if they win this round, his team is able to buy for him. But take a look at the rounds, Moxie. They're spending a ton of money here, and if they lose this, it's match point.
Oh, but T1 as well are forking out. They're sensing that it's match point, and they are going to do everything they can to cripple Envy to stop this fight before it even starts. That is an Odin and an Operator. The 2 most expensive guns in the entire game. Brax isn't even allowing the wall to come through because it can provide cover for Envy if it becomes a question of the recontest. So T1 making a lot of noise, making sure that Envy know that they have to commit into this. It's all bait play though, because Envy are going to walk right in with T1 that is fully rotating.
Brax! You are monstrous. Manages to get them while they're back to turn. The Hunter's Fury will come out, manages to ding Brax. He manages to jump out of it and not get killed. But is it going to be enough if FNS manages to get 2 kills on his own? 2v3, uses the neural theft to get that information, and that's the perfect way to use this ultimate, but he's coming up against Skadoodle, and it's not going to be enough. And that takes us to, yes, Moxie, match point.
Match point.
Oh, and Envy. The situation is dire for this team. Bulldog going to be coming out for crashies.
Here.
Caboose needs Team Charity to help out as well. And if you're T1, you didn't lose the Operator, you didn't lose that threat. You can already see this defense. They know how aggressive they can get, that Envy can't really stand up, that Envy are going to do everything in their absolute power to either use so much utility early on to make sure that they don't get picked, or just aggressively stack onto one of these points until T1 can just come divide up and conquer. They've got a presence in B main, they've got a presence in A garden. What they don't have is garden.
Flash out! The hunt begins!
Poor Caboose coming into this round with nothing but a ghost to his name. He does pop the Empress though. Oh, he managed to pick up a gun off of his dead comrade. You know what? What are friends for, right? So he manages to pick up the Phantom here. It is the 4v5, but as I said, he's popped the Empress. That's going to give him a little bit of an advantage here. Spots out the Owl drone. Now, this is where the tension builds up. This is map point. And they're kind of stomping around, making a ton of noise, making it dangerously obvious where they are. Caboose manages to get a kill here over on the B site. Can he get 2? No, gets taken down by dazed Odin, but the numbers advantage is still firmly in favor of T1. The spike is here on the B site. Oh, he doesn't manage to kill the recon bolt. They know exactly where he is. He's going to try and push towards B site, link up with his Cypher and not move together.
30 seconds left.
They've got
certainly a choice. I mean, they need to, but they don't have the time, and they don't realize that Brax is right there. The plant's going to come in, but this is going to be a pincer movement. Oh, there we go. Now they know he's there. I love these jump peeks. You don't really get too much information out of it, but if somebody shoots at you, it tells you exactly where that person is.
Enemy remaining.
Oh, didn't need that information, as there's the pincer. The 2 get taken down. That's going to be a defuse, and that's going to be the first point in this best of 3 going to T1. Moxie, did you see this
Envy's
coming?
hands.
Defenders win.
I mean, Envy's hands were just forced, right? Anytime another side, especially on the defense, is able to access that operator, and the Odin as well paired up with it, that's 2 entire sections of the being in lamps on that Omen. It's absolutely terrifying because he can paranoia or dark cover all the way through a short, and you just cannot push in at an advantage until that burns out.
Oh hey, Spider's not in lamps. He's off in spawn. Really quick rotation here. I'm loving the aggression coming through here from Envy as they push straight into lamps, but Brax knows that Caboose is coming. A ton of utilities coming through. There's that raid that we were talking about. This time it is food. It's going to go down very quickly here. This is not a good attack from Envy. They attempted that super fast, aggressive play.
One
T1
player
kind of just had their number here.
Envy just getting absolutely shredded. It's so hard when you're on the attack. Yes, you can get that spike down extremely quickly, but Bind has always been one of those maps where you just have to think of the fight that's going to be coming through. You've got to be able to control all of the angles. In T1, we're able to get a rotation from B relatively quickly and collapsed in on Envy. As I say that, we're going to watch Spider, see whether he's going to prove me wrong. And yeah, there he is, not going to be going anywhere near lamps. He's instead going to be pushing in to showers. This is actually where we tended to see Scare play on that raise to try and satchel pack and keep enemy teams from pushing in on one of the really valuable sites to control, because when you push onto the A site, you've got to have split focus. Otherwise, you're just going to get chipped down from afar.
Well, we've got a split push here towards the B site this time.
Revealing area.
3 players from Envy make their way up B long. Not kind of committing to anything just yet. And because of their lack of committal, 2 players will get immediately taken out by the T1 squad. This is not a great look for Envy. But it is, of course, just the first 2 pistol rounds. And next round, they're very likely going to go for a full buy. We saw it on the previous map. We're probably going to see it again. Full buys, rifles, and hopefully they'll be able to get a point on the board.
But if you're Envy, you're in danger. It may be the 3rd round, it may be relatively early on, but this has major ramifications for the rest of the map. And you don't want to find yourself falling behind in that weapon economy yet again, and finding that scoreboard stacked against you yet again, especially with T1 on the defense. This is considered the easier side in Valorant matches.
Curious defaults here from these teams, as we're going to be seeing yet another B hit. Spike is moving its way towards B as well. They're not really committing just yet, though. They might choose to push through hookah here, as they've looked up B long, haven't spotted anything out. And slowly they're trying to make up their mind. And of course, we've got Cypher on the lurk towards the A site, exactly where he's meant to be. And that is a great Cypher cam there from Brax. He knows that they're moving up through hookah, so that information is going to get filtered back to the rest of the team. Spike is making its way through, and we're going to have Sova holding the backside, crashies, making sure nobody comes on the flank that way. T1 haven't started any sort of a maneuver just yet. They know that this is bind. They know that the bait can come through at any moment. So they're going to keep 2 on A before they really need to actually push.
That's going to be so hard for Envy as well, because the sooner T1 hear that noise, see that movement, that breach utility is going to come into full swing, and you're going to be flash pointed, you're going to be fault lined, and you're going to be ejected from that point if Dazed decides to move
30 seconds
in
left.
on the prone team out from elbow.
Finally, here comes that utility. We can already hear the paint shells coming through. There's that flashpoint that you spoke about. Doesn't manage to hit anything, as the spike will start to be planted. The rotation is coming through from T1. They're moving through hookah to try and make for a pincer movement. No one has died just yet. As I say that, Brax is going to take down 1. Skadoodle will get yet another one for T1. As the numbers go back and forth here, it is seriously scrappy on this point, but T1 do come out on top. They waited it out in A. They waited for the perfect opportunity. They were playing for retake. They had the angles. They pushed through. And that's an easy round win.
It's that same problem. Different map, same occurrence, tempo. Because half of Envy's team push. Half of them stay. half of them get completely zoned out and they just cannot commit, cannot help their teammates. And T1, because they've seen the full force of Envy, they've got the numbers behind them, they've got the utility. Spider is yet again going to go for this very aggressive playstyle to make sure that Envy just don't get freely onto point A. And it's good, I like this, because when you go aggressive, you do risk going down early on, but you get so much information to figure out whether the team is pushing on showers, because when you go for that A push, you have to have the split. You will see teams, they want to stack A short, and they'll split themselves. Half in showers, half in A short, so if you don't see anybody, chances are it's going to be a B push, and that's exactly where the spike is headed.
Envy not deviating too much from their default here. They're going to be pushing the same angles. This time, however, they are going to have Omen pushing towards A site, which is kind of free at the moment. Mummy's going to make his way into U-Haul, completely uncontested. And as they move forward, they make the call to the rest of the team to finish the rotation towards the A site. They now basically have A site control, and they've barely done anything. They don't have showers, though, so they're going to need to be careful. Need to be on the lookout for any sort of a flank there. They haven't put down any wires to warn them of a flank. All they really have is the camera, which immediately gets taken down by Brax. Can they push onto site here with all the space in the world? They're going to be running straight into Brax, who manages to take one, gets flashed out, doesn't get the follow-up, gets paranoid as well, tries to get yet another one, but on the retreat, oh, Caboose, is he able to get this last kill here? Yes, on the other side of showers. T1 just give up that point entirely for free, Moxie.
T1 had the one thing that could have shut down Envy, or rather they had half of it. They had the showstopper, but AZK wasn't actually on that A site with the Raze, which is something that T1 really like to do an awful lot of when the Raze has the showstopper. They'll fault line, or they'll rolling thunder first to make sure that people get stunned up, that they can't just simply disengage, that they will get most definitely hit by that ultimate. And remember, showstopper still does a heck of a lot of damage. Pretty much guarantees you a pick. So T1, they didn't want to use their best card at holding on to this A site, but again, the Raze and the Breach are on two different sides of this map. The Raze is the one going to be vying for that hooker control, because you can go for the very sort of aggressive scout with that bot where you just send it out. It's the one that takes the damage rather than your own health bar. You get the same amount of information as a Cypher camera, which will be up on that A site as Brax is just waiting with the operator. This is not where we see him go for that roll for T1 as Envy are just going to try and obscure the line of sight. Bifurcate going down first as they just wait. They're bolstering their forces, they're trying to make sure that they've got presence in showers before they push A short, before they try and peek this operator.
We see a change from Envy's default here because they knew that they had the run it back online. They pull the run it back out as he pushes onto site to try and get the information, gets taken down though. Unfortunately, doesn't get what he would have wanted, but once again, that gives Envy the opportunity to move on to point. Mummay also teleports up into heaven, and they take full map control. Absolutely free. The showstopper will come out, and he kills himself with it! Dude, what are you doing?
Defense wins!
Food, man. He's trying to fire into heaven, and he fires the showstopper into the wall in front of him and takes himself out in the process. He is kicking himself over that one.
Oh, we're gonna see an glorious replay too. Go, Puffs, are you going to let us see? There is no... We're going to see AZK reload instead. I think it's good. I think that was censored for a reason, Sam. We just could not show it. This is a family-friendly stream. And I'm sure when that show...
Not anymore. We just showed it twice. Family-friendly, nothing. This is now a horror movie. This is definitely Envy's nightmare. Not going to be happy with this one as they move back to their default. They don't have those ultimates. They have the Hunter's Fury, which makes a ton of sense as they're going to be trying to use that Hunter's Fury up long. Not too early though. I'm expecting the Owl Drone to come out to get a little bit of information before they pop that. But this is the perfect site to use that Hunter's Fury to either cut the site or get a pick or two in the process. And of course, we've still got the Cypher out towards showers, trying to get some information over there. But the push onto site has already started, and T1 playing this well, playing this a little bit further back. They don't want to engage unnecessarily or play too aggressively. As soon as they have the information, they will push out. But for now, Oh, the rotation has come through. This is a nice bait from Envy. They make a ton of noise here, make it look like everybody's pushing onto B side, and Envy fell for it. The rotation pushed all the way to B, and now the Hunter's Fury comes out.
But it's not going to get anything. Spider finally going to be playing a lamp. Uses them from the shadows to actually escape. Sphere trying to clear their name, make that redemption play. As T1 are going to be taking control of Heaven, but the spike isn't actually near. Hey, this is a big old goose chase, man, but the longer it goes on, the less favorable position the attackers are because they just don't have time now. They've played themselves.
Oopsie. Somebody, like, make this clip, add the meme, you just played yourself. They tried to go for some fantastic baiting, and it would have worked. They actually got onto site for free, but they give it up. They allow themselves to get taken down. They don't cover themselves properly. They don't cover their angles properly. And they lose that out so unnecessarily. There was a point there where mummay could have planted and just opted not to. And now T1 are in such a good position. They are on an absolute tear here. Envy are actually force buying just to try and get a point on the board. But if they lose this, it is a mess for them.
Well, the Cypher is going to be trying to make an awful lot of noise to draw attention away from the rest of the team. All the way over on that B long, but that is very quickly going to be found out. Aldrin's sent in, so you get a lot of information on where Dazed is playing. But what you don't have is that threat of the operator. You've got to be able to come in on that broken buy, get a pick, upgrade your weaponry. T1 though, because Envy went for such a bait play in that last round, very reluctant to actually maneuver around this map. This defense was sticking to their positions like glue.
Oh no! Turns around to take down the recon bolt, tries to use the rolling thunder, but gets taken down mid-ultimate. And this was a fantastic rotation from Envy, staying as far away from the operator as humanly possible. And Brax, I mean, he's not getting involved in this. You know, it's like, that's your fight, guys. And he's going to head out as far away as possible. But now Envy, they're going to be on the hunt. They're not going to let this lie down, particularly because they know that their economy was so bad. If they can take the operator out of Brax's hands, that's a massive boon for them.
But it's also extremely risky. You're 4 points behind. Yeah. You want to save as many weapons as you can. And you can see they're not going for it, Sam. They're just gonna stick around in big gardens. Both of these teams,
I wanted to see them hunt him down.
We're going on a Cypher hunt. I don't know, did you ever read that book when you were a kid, Sam? Or is that just something that they give to us?
We're going on a Cypher hunt?
No, we're going on a bear hunt.
Oh, no.
It's like a family go into the forest and they're like super happy and it's illustrated and do you know what? I'm going off on a
That sounds like a horror movie. Do you mean like the teddy bear picnic? Is that what we're talking about?
Oh man. Never
anyway, moving swiftly along from Moxie's really weird childhood. Brax managed to save the up. This is good news. They're still able to full buy as well. So T1 not too deterred from that. And they have the Hunter's Fury online. So of course we're going to be seeing Sova continue to play towards B side. But there's a little bit more heavy presence on B here. They're expecting yet another B hit.
Skadoodle's actually going to be the one this time with that Phantom alongside the Sova. But oh, the satchel pack from Food is beautiful. Stops them from disengaging, makes sure that they take damage and go down to the spray. Envy has stopped hesitating. They've hit the point. They've decided it's going to be theirs. And it is exactly in their clutches now with T1 are left a little bit lost for words. They're not used to Envy moving in this quick and making a decision that abrupt when they don't have all of the pieces of the puzzle.
Oh, she's the gun. Oh, no.
Spider's able to pick up one, but crashies not gonna be taking himself into this next round. T1, however, looking very unlikely to be able to take out that round. We're gonna see the noise of the teleporter. Alert
I mean, this is just a save, right?
But the attackers are moving through. Yeah. They're going to try and find where T1 are hiding in the little time that they have left, but T1 have very wisely already abandoned showers. They know that the teleporter is that close. They don't want to be picked off. And Spider's actually just charging up. He isn't even going to use it. It would give away his position. He's just going to keep himself, his gun, and his backside nice and cozy and safe behind that crate. It's T1, because they didn't lose too many players, because they didn't lose too much economy, can still come in with the operator, can still try and monopolize parts of the map.
They need to be so careful here, though, because if they lose this round, everything goes to hell in terms of their money, and Envy are very much aware of that.
That's why T1 are pressing forward so aggressively. They know that they have to keep Envy at bay. Kaboose, though, knows the exact same thing, that T1 are going to be struggling, and so all of Envy are once again moving forward so aggressively on the B side. They've got control of Hooker. Hot Hands already used. Keep that Phoenix up and alive as FNS is going to push through on Gardens. Skadoodle going down means a big amount of zoning utility is now barefoot from T1. Who once again are going to be forced with this decision. Do they try and go for this recontest? Or do they keep that operator and 5,000 of their credits safe? And you can see they're running.
Oh, brax! Not able to get away. I wish we could have seen that, because I highly doubt he was scoped in for that kill to have come through so easily for Mummay. That is super unfortunate. They're going to yoink the operator as well. And this is a revitalized Envy. They just needed a chance to turn this around. They needed to get some guns in their hands, and they've really made a resurgence here. This is massive. And this is what I wanted to see from them on Ascent. This aggression, this decisiveness. We didn't talk about it, but we noted, we felt like Envy was going to do a little bit better on Ascent. But it feels like Bind is kind of their map, and after yoinking the operator from T1's hands, they are looking flush with cash. T1 still able to buy this round thanks to the magic of the loser streak credits, but it's definitely not ideal. In fact, Daze is going to be running into this round with a Spectre. No one's going to buy for him because they need to hang on to their credits.
They want to try and lengthen out that economy in any way they can. And a lot of that comes down to, once again, it's this game of hot potato. Who's going to be able to grab that operator? So Envy, not deciding. They're not going for the aggressive play. They know they hold all of the cards. They want to be very, very, very sure that T1 aren't going to just rush them down with a full stack and trying to overwhelm them with numbers alone. That Boombot is going to do an awful lot to show, and Kaboose is actually going to use the run it back just to explore Hooker safely. Because of that Boombot, and Skadoodle's done his bit. He's pulled out an entire ultimate from the Phoenix, and it gives so much information to T1.
Envy into that round like abandon all defaults, all ye who enter here. And they pushed through. They had the Phoenix ult, like you said, but it didn't get any of the information that they would have wanted. Now all they really have is the showstopper. And can you get a better showstopper than you did before? No, you cannot. You didn't kill yourself with it, but you give yourself an opening to AZK, and this is T1 turning it back around. A fantastic round from T1.
I have such a gripe with Phoenixes that pop run it back and then appear from the exact same place that they popped up. Because the entire point of the ultimate is you use it, you go into an engagement, you don't put yourself at risk, you find information, you convey it to your team, and you're able to get out safely. What you're doing, though, at the same time as that double-edged sword, is providing information to the other team as well, because they're going to see where the Phoenix is coming from. They're going to hear all of the commotion in Hooker and know that Envy are committing onto B, or it's the biggest bait of all time because they're actually committing an ultimate to try and keep the foe play going. And so T1, all they had to do was keep themselves contesting Hooker, keep themselves always looking at window, and they completely churn Envy out. As now Envy once again going back to that very hesitant style of play, not wanting to move in. They heard the operator shot.
Flash out.
AZK going to be charging up one of those flashpoints. Doesn't hit anyone, but it is still an awful lot of noise to make sure that Envy does not want to move through showers and therefore do not feel comfortable pushing the entirety of the ace light.
Envy started out this round very, very scattered, but now the 3 stack towards Hookah. Done a little bit of noise out that side. still not 100% committing, but we do see a full rotation towards the B side here from Envy. So the intention is clear. And there's still the 3 stack on A from T1. So once again, if we see that aggression from Envy, then this is an easy side capture for them. They might be trying to go for a bait and wait for
30
someone
seconds left.
to rotate towards A. I'm curious what's going through T1's minds right now. This is a massive mind game from Envy. They're playing slow, quiet, but it's methodical. They're making their way onto point. And AZK has already started a rotation towards B site. All the noise in the world has gone through here. Paint shells, rolling thunder, Spike trying to go down. The aftershock will come through, takes out food, and that is fantastic because that means Spike does not get planted. The rest of T1 managed to make their way back. They clean it up. Envy run out of time, and even if they hadn't run out of time, T1 just clean that up.
You know what what was running for T1's minds as Envy moved in? We're gonna let them wait. We're gonna let them play themselves on that time bank. And then we're gonna pinch them. We're gonna come for hooker. We're gonna surprise them with a behind-the-back operator. And we're still going to have a presence in B hall, so they just cannot run away from it. Envy, once again, with that hesitance, allow T1 to get the exact setup that defense were desiring, and this is that same risky place that Envy were. T1 came into that round swap the last time with 8 points in their favor.
Envy force buy into this round. Again, they don't have a ton of cash to work with going into the next round, especially if they lose here. They put up a camera into Showers, immediately gets taken down. So now the information is there that there is someone around Showers. Hunter's Fury will come out, manages to tag a little bit of damage, gets the kill onto AZK. That's massive. That's going to take down one more person on the A side. B is free and clear, however, but Envy seem to have committed here. They are going to be pushing through onto the site. FNS is already on site, manages to take down one more. It's kind of back and forth. It's 2v1. FNS is the last man standing, but the Spike is all the way in A main. Can he get to it?
There's not an operator currently looking through heaven.
Ooh.
You're safe to pick it up.
That's a teleport. Spider teleports all the way back to, the teleporter. But FNS hasn't picked up the Spike. He's trying to save here. Little does he know he could so easily get a plant. But now he's wasted so much time that Spider has moved his way up to Showers.
I have retrieved the Spike.
Does he go through the
he's
teleporter?
going
No, he's
for
going
it.
to try and go for the plant. No, Spider's right there.
Spike planted.
Well, Spider camera is up, so he will have information, and Spider has not pushed in with the operator just yet. He's waiting for Brax to get into position on a shot.
There it is.
He doesn't even need to
That
wait
was
for his
such
teammate.
good communication between Spider and Brax. Brax does the jiggle leg peek and completely distracts FNS, and then Spider swings out and gets
Switching
the kill
sides.
with the operator. And that's exactly what you want to see. You want to see those combos. Now, that was the last round and a half. It is 8-4 to T1 Moxie. How do Envy turn this around?
Well, we see that Envy is very good at that hesitant sort of play, that they really try and play into that. And I think on the defense, it's a lot easier to be able to find success with that, right? Because you have all of the space, and at the end of the day, the longer the attackers take, the better set up you are, because then they're just playing themselves. They're going to be walking back in with 5 seconds, and we've already seen that never ends well. And so if Envy are able to do what T1 have been doing, and that's delay these fights and bait out that attack, use a tiny little bit of utility, the slightest sliver of it, to chase them away and bully them out of some pretty important places of the map, then you can start winning these rounds.
Dazed, how do you just start the round with a shot dart kill? That is actually illegal. And Food is already low on HP, down to 66 HP. This is a really good start for T1. Brax follows it up with another 2 kills. It's a 3v2 here, and they're already on site. They only have to really worry about the Sova. Oh, that last second teleport. As they go through the teleporters, it was the epic bait and switch once again. T1 moving towards the A side. They need to be careful though, because the Sova is just around the corner waiting for them to rear their heads. He's called that information across. Now they know. Now they're going to try and pincer and stop the push from coming through onto site here. As we see T1 retreat again. What are they doing? Still 45 seconds to go here. And they're going to be running straight into Mummay.
This is the thing, when you're the defense, the longer the attackers take, and they haven't actually seen him! Oh no! They move on to A short, they don't check. The Omen's able to get one, and the rest run straight into crashies. T1 just didn't feel comfortable. They waited too long to get back onto that A site, and then crashies was there and laying down suppressing fire right into showers. You didn't want to risk losing a person to that. You didn't want to risk evening out that numbers fight, so you press out. You make it seem as if you're done with A site, you teleport back in, but T1, you're right up.
Yep. They had a really good, like, Envy had such a solid defensive hold there. They covered their angles really well. They weren't going to get confused by the bait and switch. And this, I think, is fantastic play from them. And now we're going to be seeing T1. This is kind of their default. 3 moving up towards B. I think this is kind of everybody's default, really. 3 towards B, the spike kind of rotating toward or between A and B, and then of course the Cypher lurking towards the A site. Now the Cypher is going to be getting some information here, and he's going to try and get that back to the rest of his team, but he gets taken down! That's bye-bye Brax, as Mummy will take down the lurk. However, it looks like the spike will be pushing towards A site regardless of having just lost Brax. And that's unfortunate because Brax is a ton of firepower for this team. They're pushing onto the site with not too much to work with. They push through the cages, and that's going to give a massive verbal cue to Envy of exactly where they are. It's come down to, well, I was going to give numbers, but FNS is like, he wants to make it look like I can't do maths. So he just kills people as I'm about to say a number. And so I opt to just not say the number, but explain things. I'm getting paid for this, by the way.
T1 able to get 8-6 at the moment. Envy trying to claw it back. We're seeing T1 get very sort of aggressive, but in the same way that they sometimes get bullied out. They sometimes bullied out Envy, rather. On their defense, Envy is bullying T1 out of a couple of these sightlines. They want to push on to B at the beginning, but they just get absolutely spooked from this very early utility. And again, T1, they see the utility go down. They want none of it. The Blaze Wall is the only thing needed for the entirety of T1 to just run away from the entirety of B long and move up towards A shot. Unfortunately though, Envy don't have the numbers to capitalize on this. So it's going to be up to Spider and up to the Rays to keep them contested long enough for the rotation to come through.
T1 force bought into this round, and it's a really bad start to lose Skadoodle right off the bat. They have managed to push onto site here, but they're once again giving too much time for Envy to get into position for a solid retake. Crashies all the way up in heaven. He's got sights towards showers, and the spike is kind of hanging outside of lamps. They're not aggressing in just yet. Oh, the Cypher lurk through showers. Is he going to be able to spot out AZ? Well, not AZK, who's he? Nothing's happened just yet. Again, just kind of stalling out. Food spots Brax, and that's it. That shuts down the lurk. And this is terrible for T1. They, again, just playing so slowly and not pushing in with what little opportunities they have. AZK will manage to get a pick off there, which is fairly decent. They actually get the plant. These two teams playing so passively. No one actually wants to do anything. And then when somebody finally does do something, the other team doesn't know how to handle it. It's two teams playing, like you said, hot potato, and they're not sure how to deal with this. But with the spike being down here, Envy not wanting to push in, not wanting to get the retake just yet.
Oh, Spider caught without any utility on that Omen, and that's all that Envy need to just lay down that Cypher cage to make sure that you're completely distracted, that you just have to blindly spray down and you can't contest the defuse coming through. Envy have a really good grasp of this as well.
There. Yeah, 100%.
Envy have a really good grasp of T1 and how much utility T1 use, because although they burn a lot of utility themselves, which is a very risky strategy, it means that you're very likely to be caught in the same sort of situation we just saw Spider at the wrong end of. They also were able to read out how much of it T1 has, and with what little they've been able to save when it comes to those recontests, they really do pressure that attacker into just getting caught up in these tiny little corners where they cannot move freely from.
And after having forced in the previous round, this round they are running in with sheriffs. Now, what we tend to see on these eco rounds is teams kind of just monkeying in and waiting to die and then coming back in with rifles the next round. But T1 are going to play this a little bit more strategically, and I like to see that. They do want to try and dent Envy's economy, at least to some extent. And it looks like once again they're going for that A hit. There's 2 people over on B. No ultimates online except for the Hunter's Fury, but that could really prove instrumental here for T1. If they can get an opening, if they can get that Hunter's Fury out and actually get a pick off.
Cage trigger.
Oh, T1 again going for the bait and switch marks.
Yeah, they really like the style of play where it makes it look as if they're pushing on one of these points and then immediately swing on over to the other one, but they've done it so much, Envy are ready. Yes, they're not in B hooker. Yes, they're not in B spider, elbow, or back. But they're actually waiting right outside teleporter to catch T1 in this rotation. They'll reveal themselves with the ball, but they're still able to get the pick onto the Omen.
Spider sends out, or Daze sends out the owl drone, and Spider's just like, I'm gonna peek with the drone. And the drone gets completely ignored as Spider gets taken down. And once again, that is an attack round crippled for T1. But the numbers are evened out. So it's still a 4v4, and they still managed to get the plant. This is fantastic work from T1. I'm not too sure what Envy was doing while all of this was happening. And T1 have great post-plant position here. They have every angle covered. Time is running down. Food's gonna fake. And a little bit of disruption here. Nobody's actually going for the defuse. There we go. Brax manages to take down his counterpart. The Hunter's Fury finally comes out to try and disable the defuse, but he's being chased down long, manages to stop the defuse from happening, gets taken down for his troubles, but it's just enough to secure them yet another point on the board.
Again, that understanding, that grasp of what T1 has available to them and when they're going to use it. Because if you hadn't pressured that Sova, then the spike diffuser, we saw it, he got killed by the Hunter's Fury. If you hadn't pressured that Sova down, you would have lost. But because you're able to take advantage of the fact that the Sova is defensively using that Hunter's Fury, you can go after him, you can chase, you can win that round. The defenses, Envy are going to be coming in with a whole lot more to work with in terms of ultimate than T1. And Food is going to be just standing on a shot atop of these crates trying to get a better sight line with the Phantom. You've got the Showstopper too, so even though you don't have things like dashes, you can pop that ultimate, and it immediately buys you so much space because everyone just scarpers as soon as they hear that voice line starting up, especially with a sight that's as straight and narrow as a short.
What's interesting to note is, of course, oh my goodness. Well, that was pretty interesting to note. Spider just gets destroyed by Food, and that's going to somewhat shut down whatever it was they were thinking of doing there. And what I wanted to note on was how Phoenix has the run it back available for Envy, and he's playing all the way towards the B site with Crashies, who's also got the Hunter's Fury. So they're stacking those ultimates towards B because that's where T1 tends to hit. But now T1 kind of leant towards an A push, and because of that, Phoenix rotates all the way back towards A. And the spike starts to move towards B. T1, time and time again, going for that bait and switch. It hasn't really worked out for them so far, but it's because they play too slowly. If we can see them actually push onto, not like this, the shoulder peek gets punished by Mummay. And that is massively bad news for T1 as it's down to the last 2 players. And there's just no way. They're just going to try and save here. AZK is going to chill out in the teleporter. Brax is all the way in spawn.
10 seconds left.
We don't have time for these games. We're going to hold on to our guns.
T1, I don't think even knew that there was an operator in play. Otherwise, they would not have gone for as blind a peek as on to be long. When you know there's an operator in play, you either try and bait out the shot or you put some form of utility down. They tried to save. They still lose a couple of members even in that teleporter base. Envy evening things up. 8-9. T1, they've got the ultimates, they've got the Showstopper, they've got the Rolling Thunder and the Neural Theft, but Envy are still using these really quite defense-favored ultimates. The Showstopper, the Hunter's Fury, significantly limit T1's movement. They don't want to go hooker, because that's going to result in a multi-kill of that Showstopper. Suddenly, they don't want to aggressively push down that B long site solo. So you can see they've already got the buddy system in place. The Sova, the Omen, going to be trying to keep each other safe. As Envy are going to meet them right there.
Oh, and that's a fantastic early pick-off there from Caboose. Gonna shut down the push into B. But there's still more opportunity here, as they know that there was a push coming through hookah. Skadoodle was making a ton of noise in there, but FNS manages to get the kill while blinded. Follows up with a second. Skadoodle takes him down, but it doesn't matter because Envy have the numbers here. And once again, it's one person left alive. And Dazed, well, that's it. That's another point on the board for Envy here. And you kind of mentioned it. Bind, you know, defender-heavy map here. But T1, what do you think they can do to turn this one around? Because they've already got it evened up. But obviously T1, with not the best economy right now, need to somehow get back in this game.
We've seen the bait and switch. We've seen the traditional bait and switch where you have to walk to get there. What I would love is Spider to use this from the shadows to completely mess around with Envy sides. Because Envy have been holding on to the Showstopper and this Hunter Fury, knowing the position that it forces T1 in. However, that's going to have to wait, Sam. You're not going to commit that important an ultimate if you're T1 on this broken buy. This is all about trying to cripple the economy. You are currently 9 and 9. Every single member that you can get off of Envy's side is going to contribute so heavily and even force ultimates out to make up for those players' absence.
Hunter's Fury coming out. Not really getting much of anything. It's going to get followed up by a Showstopper. Let's see if we're able to survive the Showstopper. Skadoodle manages to take down Food, and that's a good pick. But the trades are going back and forth here. It's 3v2 in favor of Envy. And because they're the defensive side, that heavily favors them. Crashies. Oh, sorry, not Crashies. Sova for T1. Days, thank you. Very, very close on site already. Moving away from site, not opting to go for the plant this time around, as he's going to be reaching or meeting up with Crashies if he's not too careful. Manages to pick up a weapon for himself.
30 seconds
now he's
left.
got a rifle. Oh, man. And this is so
He does
tense.
have the drone.
He does, but
Can't
they
get a
also
lot of
need to go for the
information.
plant.
10, 16, 17. He's going to do it, but he's doing it right in front of Heaven. Special packs are there to keep Crashies occupied while that comes through. Shock dart out. But right now, it's the question of where this operator is going to come from.
Cover going
He's got all of his utility. Paranoia going to be coming through.
That's a dark cover. He hasn't been blinded.
It is indeed a dark cover.
Oh, but doesn't expect the flanking Caboose. Last person left alive. Yeah, it is Dazed. And once again, that flanking Caboose, it'll get you every time.
You've got to be so careful when it comes to those recontests. Because T1, they were able to get the plant down, but it's in such an open space. There's nowhere that they can really move into once that spike's been planted that is safe from the defense's eye. Because you've got Heaven, which just sees the entirety of that point. You've got Lamps, and you've got Showers, which is currently, or was currently, being controlled by the operator. T1 have got to be able to start recognizing where Envy are going to come from, what weaponry and utility they're up against, because we are once again seeing Envy have that grasp, knowing what T1 have access to, knowing that they can move back in aggressively once those satchel packs have gone through, because there's just absolutely nothing left.
That's a showstopper. Oh my goodness, Food pushes out super aggressive to try and take down anyone pushing up long, but pushes out so far that AZK is able to very easily dispatch of him. Mummay gonna even out the numbers though, as he manages to take down Spider. T1 gonna be going for that A hit once again, as it's followed up by the Hunter's Fury from Daze, trying to create a little bit of space. Doesn't manage to really hit anything because he knows there is one person behind him. Can he win out the duel? He does manage to win it out. Caboose goes down. Finally, T1 should be able to get a point on the board here. Yeah, that'll clean it up.
They will. But they do lose one of their own. However, they do manage to pick up that operator. And now still even the scoreboard yet again. This map has been a lot closer than we saw Ascent, because both of these guys have stopped going for as much hesitation. So they are running out of time a lot less, Sam. When commitments come through, they're followed. And we're starting to see T1 and Envy, when they decide to commit, they can be a very formidable team to try and slow down.
It begins.
And our Spider has an operator in his hands. And he's going to be trying to contest... Well, not contest Mummay, because Mummay has been playing historically on A site, and they know that. So Spider's going to try and clear out a little bit of space towards the B site. He does get spotted out by the recon bolt, which isn't the best of news, but not deterred. Drone is going to come out to give them a little bit of information, as it looks like it's going to be yet another B hit. And Skadoodle dies alone in Hooker again, consistently pushing out alone there and getting taken down for his troubles. And that's put him dangerously low in the KD scoreline here. But it's not the most important thing. What matters is, can you get onto site? Can you make something happen? And unfortunately, we saw a lot of missed operator shots there. Yes, it was onto a Phoenix mid run it back, but you can't miss those. And thankfully, the rest of his team is there to back him up a little bit as we see the rotation once again moving towards that A hit.
FNS is just going to try and bait out. He's trying to get wallbang. Wallbang is successful. Brax of the Phantom able to pick that Cypher up. However, now the information comes on through. And if they want to go for this quick rotation, they do have the From the Shadows. They do have the Operator in Land. You're having to swap up because you're getting pressed in on them. You just don't have the room to shoot. And T1 have been able to overwhelm Envy's defense. One player left, but now it's a 1 versus 1.
Just doesn't manage to get into the teleporter, but was able to actually get the spike into the TP. Doesn't realize that Caboose is hot on his heels, is expecting him to come through the defender's spawn. The spike looks like it is going to go down. The hot hands is going to come out, but it's followed up by a paranoia. The paranoia does not connect, though. It's a 1v1 situation here. Phoenix versus Omen. Spider knows exactly where he's put that spike. Oh, he's jiggle peeking. He manages to take down Caboose, and finally, T1 will get another point on the board, edge themselves just that little bit further ahead of Envy. 1 point differential. If they win this next round, that's going to be us on match point. And Envy's economy, Moxie, it's not looking good.
You really don't want to be on a budget buy when the other side is on match point. It's about the worst thing you can do in terms of weapon economy in Valorant. Heck, in terms of anything in terms of Valorant, let's be honest. And so if you're T1, you've got to start getting these picks before this round can properly start, because Envy understand the position that they're in. Or rather, T1 understand the position that they're in. Envy have got to be able to come in. That operator really did bank their economy quite a bit out, and with the Spectre, they've got to be able to upgrade, win these fights, and swap these weapons up. They want to be able to cash out.
I love how fluid T1 have been playing this. They don't really have a super set default. It's just kind of Brax chilling in showers, and the rest of the team will chill out in the mid area and kind of swing between A and B before choosing on a site to hit, depending on information. I love that fluidity, but unfortunately with Brax going down so early on in showers, it does not bode well here for T1. Paranoia is going to come out. Brax manages to get a kill despite the paranoia, but gets taken down by Mummay for his troubles. The counter paranoia is going to come out through showers. Numbers advantage here for, well, no one. As the picks, the trades will continue to come back and forth, but now Days, last man standing here for T1. Spike is on the floor. Doesn't matter where Spike is, however, because Caboose is there to get the cleanup.
It seemed like Days really wanted to go for a lurk in showers, but because he lost the Spike carrier right where they wanted to be planted, he's just so open and vulnerable when he actually tries to go for it. It doesn't matter that Envy's rotation was a little bit slow. They're still able to lock down that space, that sightline, and just bully the Sova as he reveals himself. Now it's 11-11. We said that Envy needed that round to bail their economy out. They've been able to buy, but they're still bankrupt, Sam. It's only Food who's currently sitting at that 2,000 credits. Some of these guys are even sitting right on 0.
And even T1 are looking terrible as Skadoodle is only able to buy a sheriff for himself. These teams have whittled each other down to the most unfavorable positions. But T1 do have a couple of ultimates here available. They've got the Rolling Thunder, and that is a fantastic initiator. If they can place it right, they can get onto site and manage to take control of it, because all Envy have available to them is the neural theft and the teleportation. Teleport's going to come through. Doesn't get spotted out.
Oh, it's in the heaven.
Skadoodle manages to get a kill with the sheriff onto Caboose. That's massive. Caboose pushing through B, trying to get a lurk on, and Spider, who teleported up into heaven, has taken control of that. But now T1 are confused. They were starting to rotate towards B, but the call comes through to say, hey, we managed to kill 2 on A. A is relatively clear, so now they have to come all the way back. But they need to be careful because FNS is waiting. He's watching main, and Food knows that Spider is up there, manages to get the kill. And once again, T1's hesitation just works against them.
You can see it working. Both of these strategies would have worked beautifully if they just committed to one of them. Because B was completely void of Envy members. There was no one there. The entirety of Envy members had seen the Omen take control of Heaven, knew that T1 would say, oh, do you know what, we have high ground, that's advantageous ground. We've taken out 2 members on this ground. We know that they're not going to be around.
Great work from Food there. It really looked like Brax was going to be able to get that. Oh, oopsie. Stops just a split second too quickly. That was fantastic. I really thought that Brax was going to be able to get that plant. And as he starts to back up, Food just hops up over onto the van there and manages to take him down in the split second. And Food was so low as well. If Brax had seen him, if Brax had expected, Brax knew that that's where he was. And instead of turning around and backing away, he possibly could have swung out and got the kill before Food got the jump on him. But it just was not to be. And now T1, I mentioned it, Skadoodle was only able to buy a sheriff in the last round. Now coming into this round, they are in an absolute mess. And it is match point for Envy.
Skadoodle did manage to get a Bulldog. So it's not quite a Phantom or a Vandal, but it still does decent amount of damage and spray as opposed to those pistols, especially with the Rays using it, the satchel packs. You can bait the other side into running right where you want them to, but Q1, they've fallen back onto this default hesitation. They really know that this round is very important, that they have to win this one if the series is to continue. And they don't want to move in until they're absolutely certain that all of these pieces are going to be in their favor. But the longer they wait, Sam, the more that clock dwindles, the more likely we are to see that attack forced into that position where they just have to rush blindly into one of these points and actually make sure that they can get that spike planted.
T1 still holding on to that Rolling Thunder that I mentioned from previously. And there's the Rolling Thunder. It's going to come through straight onto B site. And this is where T1 starts to move. Moving a little bit slowly, but Daze does manage to take down Caboose. And that's a fantastic pick. But is it going to be enough? Because Food gets onto site and takes down 2. Brought it down to the 2v2. But now things are in favor for T1 as AZK just continues to pop off and be a force to be reckoned with. And this is a really good round from T1, but they need to continue on this momentum. Of course, the dark cover was there. There was no way they were going to see him.
Completely obliterates him from sight. Paranoia is going to come through. It catches AZK. Dark cover comes through. AZK in the window, and it just baits them right into Mummay. And that is it. T1 lose last point on Envy side. We'll see the Omen clutch things out. Oh, we talked about it, Sam. We said those omens, those dark covers, they've been so good at not only limiting threats from...
No Viper, double breaches, however. In fact, do my eyes deceive me? I do believe this is a mirror comp.
Well, it's no surprise, right? This is where Breach first rose to prominence before teams started just carrying him through to every single map because he is so good at shutting down those rush pushes. In fact, Envy already have their Breach stationed on that A site in Heaven to make sure if it is a rush push coming out from T1 from a lobby, you can just flashpoint and immediately by the time those rush pushes will falter and completely fizzle out if they run into that breach, especially with the Omen behind him to give an extra little bit of threat. But T1 don't care about A. They're going for the big piece. They're going to try and take a big old chunk out of that mid that Envy have virtually abandoned right now.
Yeah, you said it before, T1, if you give them mid, they will take it. However, it seems that they're going for a B push, and there is a 3 stack on B at the moment. In fact, Spike is all the way towards Garage, so you know that they're looking towards B, and they're going to need to be careful because running straight into a raise.
Left.
Let's see who wins out these duels. Spike is down in Garage. That does not bode well for T1, and Envy is more than likely going to take this first round.
It's going to be very interesting as well to see how T1 deal with this in that next round. Because do you aggressively go for that mid control and just try and sweep it out from the defense and change up the distance, make sure that you don't get burned down by things like rifles from afar? Or do you play a little bit more passively and try to use that information that you are provided with this composition? That Cypher can be so good. If he's able to get that camera onto A lobby, you get so much information. Not just on who's playing on A, but by default, the members who are left to contest mid and B as well.
Brax has just pulled out the Marshall on attack. I'm here for it. I think that's fantastic. And again, they're going for that mid control. They do, however, have Brax all the way over on A site, and I think that's why they opt to give him that Marshall, just so that he's got something to kind of work with there, but it's not a heck of a lot. Now, Envy not making the same mistake of completely giving up mid. They do attempt to contest it, but it's not a very strong attempt, and Brax's Marshall proves useless against Crashies' Spectre, and that's a terrible thing to happen to T1 on this offense. Does make a little bit of noise over on the A site, but Envy are not falling for it. They are going to be pushing towards B to try and hold. And Mummay goes down to dazed. That's finally a good pick on T1. Let's see if they can follow up with this. They are now going to be playing a little bit more carefully, a little bit more slowly. They know that they've got a little bit of an advantage here. Flashpoint comes out, doesn't manage to blind anyone. Caboose will win the 1v1 against AZK.
One enemy remaining.
Back and forth scrap here. Last person standing, and unfortunately Spider just not able to get any results there.
I'm worried about T1. Because going for that Marshall on a first fire when you've lost pistols, that was what T1 did continuously when they were playing up against, I believe it was Luminosity. A couple of days ago. And it meant that every single round they come in, because they go for these very strange hybrid force buys on rounds where you don't necessarily want to be on the force buy, their economy was consistently on the back foot, and they had to come up with more bizarre plays, and you're seeing it now. We don't really tend to see teams want to go for the broken buy on the third round, but because they invested so heavily in the mushroom, because it wasn't able to find anything before it was taken out, T1's economy is in the absolute drink. And so instead, they're creating a lot of noise. They're trying to make it seem like they do want that presence on mid. And if Envy want to try and commit onto them, they're first going to have to use a lot of utility or risk exposing themselves, and that will provide T1 the opportunity to take this close quarters fight and upgrade their weapons.
Mummay finally holding really, really close in mid, and that's because he's managed to pick up the judge. But the dark cover shuts him down a little bit in terms of sight. It's not going to be enough to stop him. He goes on an absolute rampage, gets 2 kills. Now 2 of his own managed to get taken down. Very unfortunate there, but they still have the numbers advantage here. They're aggressing in on Skadoodle. Skadoodle gets a pick, but the follow-up is good from Food, and that's going to be another round 1 out here for Envy. Yes, they gave up mid control for the first 2 rounds, but once we had that jet available for, or rather the judge available for Mummay, he pushes out, gets some fantastic kills, and now off the back of winning that round has enough money to pick up the operator. Strangely enough,
this is
not going to be holding it in mid. We're giving up
no,
mid.
It looks like
mid
he's gonna
is
go
for
for
free.
that. It looks like he's going to go for that very aggressive B garage play, right? Where you have the operator to try and find a pick when T1 are moving in. Perhaps without using that utility to try and keep themselves safe. They want to save it for that mid fight, or better yet, the recontest, but not going to find the Omen. Still going to hold the angle, still shutting down 50% of that approach onto the site. So T1 instead having to move through mid. A little bit risky as, oh, that Omen is edging. Spider's getting closer and closer to peeking, and all Mummay is doing is a mantra of don't move, don't move, don't move.
And T1 put a lot of faith in this default where they've got Brax kind of towards A trying to get some information, and then Spider towards B also looking for that information. But now Spider goes to pick up the spike. He gets the information. They're going to be going for a B push. No, they don't know that Mummay has the op. They don't know that Mummay is chilling right there. As soon as he walks into Mummay's FOV, he's going to get annihilated. Assuming Mummay hits his shot. We have seen...
This is like a train wreck. You can't just walk away.
30 seconds
the
left.
Paranoia does come through. So he does want to move in, but Mummay is just holding this angle. They're hearing the communication.
There it is.
There it is.
Spike's down in garage. I mean, what more do you say about that, right? For some reason, they had Spike pushing alone through B, and it's not the first time they've done this. It's the second time, in fact. Oh no, Brax.
It wasn't a knife. It wasn't a knife. It could have been a knife.
It could have been worse. And for the second time, they send Spider alone towards B with the Spike. Absolutely zero backup. Spike gets dropped in garage. And there's Envy, and they're just sitting there with, you know, their thumbs in their mouths. Like, all right, what do we do now? Because Spike is on the other side of the map. We've already pushed way too far into enemy territory. There's no way we get that back. And this is a mistake they need to stop making, and they need to stop making it now.
Well, they're going to go for that same aggressive push through garage, but this time the Spike isn't going to be that. Spike's going to be on mid instead. But Mummay is on mid as well with the operator. Doesn't manage to hit the shot, but is able to tailwind safely out. And you do have the Raze making sure that if that Jet misses the shot and gets pressed in on, you can go for that trade pick. And T1 do not want to push in aggressively. They know the operator is there. They want to get full collection of the members of Envy, so they will be checking vents. They could even use this to splinter their way onto that A side. The Race is making sure that the Omen does not actually come through and catch them as they try and press in aggressively onto that B.
Once again, T1 not deviating from this default. They are staggering a little bit towards mid here, but at least the Spike isn't on one lone person all the way on B. The Cloudburst will come out from all the way on the other side of the map, and that's going to give a little bit of space here, but it looks like the Spike is going to be moving towards A because what did Envy do? They gave up mid for free. So we're going to be moving out towards A. There's a 3 stack on B for Envy, so this is kind of free real estate for T1 at the moment. If they go now, they are wasting a lot of time. We've said this time and again from T1. They take a little bit too long to make a decision, but that early pickoff onto FNS could be exactly what they need. They've stopped that out, and that means that they have a massive numbers advantage. Showstopper will come out here. Oh, gets taken down by crashies mid showstopper, and that's the second time that that's happened on this map. Crashies and Food just being absolute staples for their team here, and they shut down T1. And this is why they aren't giving up mid control, because, like, so what? We'll just get you when you get to site. It's fine.
Here's the thing, even though T1 have that mid control, they don't really use it, or rather they go 25% of the way there. Like, we see them move towards A, we see them start to gravitate towards that heaven side. They want to drop down into the window and onto the plant side, but they're so hesitant, so cautious, that Envy is given all of the time in the world to get the entire team rotation through. And so when you start losing players, when you start being pressured in heaven, you can't actually rotate to back because there's already Envy members who are going to meet you along the way. So if you're T1, you've got to be able to take this mid control, yes, but you've actually got to be able to use it aggressively as well.
T1 deviating a little bit from their default for a change. They realize that what they have been doing has just not been working out. And that fluidity, that was something I praised them for a little bit earlier on in the series. And I'm glad to see that they're bringing that fluidity out here again. Also important to note, they do have Rolling Thunder. But there is an opposing Rolling Thunder online for Crashies. He's just at the top of this ramp. No! Checks the corner, but unfortunately doesn't notice that Crashies is not in the corner. And that's going to be 2 kills in favor of Envy. And that means that they also know that T1 is moving for that A site. Spider is so far away from the rest of the team. Wins out the 1v1 versus Caboose. As T1 start to kind of even this out a little bit for themselves. They even use the neural depth to give themselves that information of where is everyone else on the map. We see Spider teleporting to the back of B site to give a little bit of a crossfire there. And it looks like Brax is going to be able to get the plant here. Mummay trying to push this with the operator, but with a lot of dark cover in the way. Gonna stunt that progression just a little bit. See if they can push through onto point here. They've got really good sight of the spike right now. And no, it looks like Envy are going to back out. Nah, Envy are backing out. Like, they thought about it for half a second, and they're just like, nah. Would you, though?
They just don't feel comfortable. But you can see the difference, right? When you don't have control of mid, how fast T1 is able to rotate onto that B site and get that spike down in comparison to Envy, who have to go so slowly through the entirety of defender spawn. They can't just move through mid and navigate part of the map in the absolute blink of an eye. T1 finally getting mid, finally using it aggressively. They used a lot of ultimates to make sure that Envy were kept at bay long enough for them to get onto that point and use that mid control, but they were able to pick up a point, and they've still kept a hold of this Rolling Thunder. So I'm really looking for this breach to use that Rolling Thunder as a way for them to either immediately clear mid or just to move on to one of these points. Because when we see T1 go successful is when we see the team go aggressive. However, that might not be the style of play you want to go for this round because Envy have double board operators.
And that's a very spicy situation to be heading into. Of course, they want to hold down every angle that they possibly can. Now, I praise T1 for moving away from their default in the previous round, which seemed to work out really well for them. But they're back to their old ways here, as we've got 3 looking to claim mid. Mummay is going to be watching here. Spider, if he sets a toe out, we've seen this happen before. This could be an instant replay of what happened just a few rounds ago. And of course, we've got the Omen holding down the site on A with the operator as well. So T1's only real option here is to try and take mid control. And that's exactly what they've done every single round. But this just means that it's slightly more insurance for Envy to make sure that T1 can't pull the same shenanigans that they pulled last time.
Well, that's why you've got the 2 operators, right? Even if they take mid, they've still got to commit onto either B or A. And so no matter which way they go, they're still going to come up against an operator.
The disappointing thing to note is that they are repeating some shenanigans, but it's the shenanigans of we're going to take this
30 seconds
far
left.
too slowly for our own good. We're down to 30 seconds left. It looks like it's going to be the A hit. Finally, the Rolling Thunder will come out, but the counter Rolling Thunder comes out as well, and that's going to create a lot of dissension between these two teams. Nobody's taken a shot just yet. Flashpoint comes out. Paranoia moving across the map. It's a good trade, but it's heavily in favor of Envy. Oh my goodness, Mummay. He just flanks over from the B side, pops the knives, gets those last couple of kills, and it's just a flurry of knives. He's barely aiming at that point. He's just kind of putting his crosshair in the general direction of an enemy, manages to get to, and once again, T1, I don't know how many more times I can say this, but T1 just playing way too hesitantly.
They thought they had more time. They thought that that Rolling Thunder would prevent Envy from getting that faster rotation onto A and Heaven. But we see Envy go so aggressively with that Bladestorm. Mummay uses that to make sure that they can go in as aggressively as we know that this Jet likes to play. You can already see that Operator going to be scoping out as Spider is dancing with death yet again. Spike has not been picked up by T1. They still want to make sure that they can figure out which way is best. They know they're going to be going up against 2 operators again, and they don't want to risk Spike Carrier going down in a place where those operator sites can just camp the corpse.
Right now, it kind of feels like T1 are just living for their defense, right? Because we know this is a defender-heavy map. It's one of the reasons it's the least played map, potentially, in the world. But they need to get at least 2 points on the board to be in with a chance, 4 points on the board to be somewhat comfortable. And there's not a lot of time to make that happen. T1 And again, back to their same default, and it just doesn't work for them. They also have no ultimates to work with coming into this, and we do have the teleport coming out here as the Omen makes his way over to the A site. And Envy have this whole map on lock except for mid. And that's kind of what I like about their strategy. Yes, they give up mid, but they have the rest of the map on lock. And I just noticed, but Spider is alone towards B with the spike again. Thankfully, he opts not to push out on his own, but instead starts to make the rotation, but he's going to run straight into... Oh, manages to teleport out of danger, but Food has got A site on lock. And that's it. That's Envy winning out yet another defensive round. Moxie, sing me my favorite song.
Mid doesn't matter in this fight because Envy aren't contesting it. And because Envy aren't contesting it, they're not being baited into using too much utility or losing players early. In fact, what they're doing is, even like with that from the shadows that we saw where the Omen uses it to just teleport onto A site, they're preparing for when T1 are actually going to hit these sites. And because T1 don't know whether Envy are going to contest that mid, T1 have to invest if they want to actually be able to take that space that sometimes they can just walk in and get for free. But because they're the ones investing, they're actually bullying themselves out of that utility, and so Envy is in a much better position. However, that operator shot is going to give an awful lot away, and Spider, he's still thinking about it. He's still around in garage. The rest of the team aren't there. The spike isn't there either. So this is all distraction technique
this is an
to
eco
make sure
round,
that you only have to run against one up. And this is indeed an eco round. So if you're T1, you just want to get in as quickly as you can, do as much damage, try and pull one of these operators out. Emphasis being on try. It's so hard to close up to this distance, Sam, when you're on split. Because all the defense needs to do is hold these really punishing angles.
I know exactly where.
I mean, just that was... This makes this a pretty solid eco round for T1. Managing to kill 2? Yeah, I mean, we take that. It's not going to do much to their economy at all, but it's impressive that they're able to get 2 kills. But it's not going to be enough. That's going to be another point on the board for Envy. But like we always say, eco rounds, you monkey in, you hope for the best, you come back, you full buy, and you continue to hope for the best.
But you're still up against the worst. You're still, unfortunately, up against the worst, because the point differential between these two teams, even if you manage to separate the operators from Envy, both the operators from Envy, look at the trust funds that Envy have currently written to themselves.
I'm so glad that's become a thing.
7,200, 6,100, and poor T1, they're buying from a pound shop right now.
I love that my trust fund baby analogy has become commonplace. That makes me happy. Oh, what also makes me happy is very clean operator shots, and that's going to be Mummay once again just shutting things down. Oh man, losing your jet, I said it on the first map and I'll say it again, that's your entry fragger, and it's super unfortunate to lose that out so early on. The Raze is still alive, so there's some potential there, but once again, you know, this is T1's typical playbook. It's telegraphed. That's the word I've been searching for. T1 right now is telegraphed. Envy know exactly what they're going to do at just about any given time. And the spike is still chilling in market. Nobody's done anything with it. They've started to push out, but... And Brax just dies to food.
I mean, T1, unfortunately, I gush about their mid-control, and they do indeed have mid-control, but it's the same attacks. So if Envy have been watching the VODs, if Envy have been following this team, when it's in, you know, a tournament like this, you do want to do your
30
homework.
seconds left.
You know where they're going to be, and that failure to adapt is absolutely brutal. So too was losing your jet so early on, because now you just don't have the threat of blade storm. You have to rely on Spider to use a lot of that utility. Just to make sure that they can safely get onto the point. They're gonna run right into Mummay.
10 seconds left.
Gaze looks right into the operator shot.
One enemy remaining.
That
Can he get the point? He has enough
benefit
time.
your team, and it can get you killed, fam. It doesn't differentiate.
Oh, that teleport, that was split seconds, but as soon as he peeks out just such low HP, FNS gets the wall bang, and he will get the defuse. But this was a fantastic round for T1 because they've managed to take the operators out of Envy's hands. That being said, I mean, we said it before, Envy are trust fund babies at this point. It doesn't matter. They're just gonna buy new operators. But forcing
They
them to
literally
buy...
just put it on their Christmas list, and it's the 24th of December.
Santa's like, you've been a
Santa is
good
going to
team
be
this year. You
extremely
get
generous.
ops.
And
this is it. This is the last round in the half. So it doesn't matter that they've started to make a dent in the economy. It's too late.
Absolutely. And for T1, you also have to look at this point differentiation. Yes, you're going to be swapping. Yes, you're going to be on the defense, which is typically favored. But we're already seeing it's so dangerous. If you lose that first round, if you lose that pistols, because if Envy take this point, then they're going to be on 10, and if you lose pistols, well, you're going to be facing down match point 2 rounds afterwards. So T1 have got to win this one if they want any chance. It is last round before swap. There is no reason to keep a hold of these ultimates. There's no reason for me either to try and keep a hold of this operator. So if you're able to get one person out, T1 definitely do it.
Oopsie.
Blade storm.
The flashpoint comes out, tries to follow up, but Mummay was not affected by it. Takes down mid-blade storm, as you mentioned. But again, T1 didn't have a ton of options. It was mid has not been working for them. They had to try something new. But it was mid, which doesn't work, or B, which has an op, or A, which has an op. A might work better because you can throw down a cage or a dark cover and try and move up ramps. But all things considered, Envy have made this very difficult for T1 to make any progress.
30 seconds left.
Going for that B push once again.
Going to come out. Both Rays is actually going to be trading off showstoppers, but it's Cabooses who's able to pick up one. And unfortunately for T1, that was not the Rays that you wanted to find success. You do have Rafters. You do actually have Mummay currently separated off in B alley, but you still got to be able to hit the shots. Oh, beautiful satchel pack to make sure that you don't go into the operator line of sight.
That was unfortunate. They've now run out of time to get that spike plant down. But they've taken down a lot of Envy's players. Again, doesn't really matter because that was the last round in the half. Oh, sorry. This is the last round. Neither of us can do maths, Moxie. But it doesn't matter because this is something we talk about all the time. You're in that round before the last round. You don't want to go in too hard with your buys, especially when your economy is absolutely potato, which is what T1 did. And now they're coming into this round, and it looks like the round after a pistol round. They've got Spectres, a Stinger, and a Bulldog. I don't know if they're expecting to make magic happen here. I'm not expecting magic here, and that's going to put them in a really massive deficit coming into the next round.
They need to. They're going very aggressively. Boombot going to be immediately forcing Mummay out of position with that operator, so you can section yourselves over from mid towards B, but you're actually content. You've been able to get the jet away. Oh, Rolling Thunder coming out
crashies?
to make sure that you keep control of tower, you keep control of heaven, and Q1 just not going to be able to have that full numbers fight that they were searching for when they were able to get rid of one of the operator flags.
I love that play from Mummay. He had the operator, but immediately he left the gun on the floor so that if he got pressured out, he could swap to a rifle. And there was no issue. He didn't have to wait for somebody to die or whatever. So that was a really good play from Mummay. But now, T1 are in the most awkward possible situation. They're chilling in the defender's spawn. We've got an Omen all the way in mid with the spike on his
30 seconds left.
But FNS is waiting on the B side. They expect him to be there, but Rifle v Spectre, it is going to be the Phantom that wins that one out. He just about solo holds here, but it's a 1v2 for AZK. And does he get the plant? No, he gets forced out of the plant.
10 seconds left.
And Food is going to get that final kill there. That's it. You're trying to go for the plant. They had the numbers, but they just weren't able to get that plant. Now we swap sides. It's the round before match point, which puts you in the most dangerous situation when you're T1, Moxie.
And it's pistols. And T1 the match that I saw them up against Luminosity, pistols was something that they just could not get the hang of. It took them a very long time to be able to. In fact, I think in the first 2 maps alone, they lost 3 out of 4 pistol rounds. And this is a pistol round that you have to win. Because if Envy are able to take this one away, we're on match point. We're on series point. And if you lose that pistols, T1, they can try to force by the Marshal. It's a lot easier to find by with the force by Marshal when you're the defense because you've immediately got these really long sightlines that play into the Marshal and operator style. But
bearing in
you
mind,
have to be able to hit those shots. And Envy have so much time to just feel comfortable.
This is, of course, a heavily defender-sided map, though. So what are we thinking? Is this going to be like a 13-11 in favor of T1? Like, they just mount the most epic comeback ever?
Do you know what? I'll answer after Pistols has carried on.
Well, after Pistols, the game is over. There's 2 pistol rounds.
T1 need
Let's
pistols.
see if...
I cannot state that enough, and they're being very, very slow. They know how important this round is, just as Envy know how important this round is, so they're hoping by taking a longer rotation, T1 are actually going to play themselves and come out of the positions that they're holding, revealing themselves before they're ready to shoot.
Oh, I'm loving this so much. This full stack through mid, which was absolutely free. Now they're pushing through heaven. T1 have already started the rotation, and they're quick to rotate. They're not wasting any time. But an initial pickle from Caboose with the paint satchels means that they're already up in numbers. The trades, that's a nice little trade there. But Envy, 3-2 here. They just need to get the plant, and then they need to get the post-plant. And given where they're planting, they're going to have such good sight lines. Brax coming around the outside, but he doesn't have the support of his raise, which means that there's no one to swing on him if he gets into danger. He's going to push out on his own. Can he get a pick off? Starts to pull back. We'll see if he can meet up with his raise. They've got a couple of seconds here. No, he opts to push in instead. Playing this very safely. Oh, but unfortunately not safely enough because, as I said, did not have the raise there to swing on him. That being said, Envy had the swing potential. Dazed up in heaven. Two guns trained on heaven. He wasn't going to survive that one. Now Moxie, this is it. Match point. This is do or die for T1.
I'm watching the weapon that Brax comes out with. What's it going to be? There's no Marshal. And Sam, we said it, you needed to win pistols. It's match point, and you're on an absolute broken by. Only one of these 5 players is rocking heavy armor. And Envy sensing blood in the water, they're coming in with specters, they're going to move in as aggressively as possible onto this A side, trying to shut down AZK, who does have the back point, who can buy his own safety with his utility. But now you don't have the chance for trade. T1 very quickly going to be rotating a lot of players moving, swarming over that A site. But you have to be very careful of Envy, especially that 5 Omen, who will be looking, who will be coming through mid, which again has been abandoned.
And this doesn't bode well here for T1 as that already comes up. Picks just coming through here for Envy. It's a 4v1 and the last person goes down on screen. And that's it. Envy with a 13-1 against T1. Moxie, I don't think either of us were expecting any of these maps to be so one-sided, but this does kind of point out why Envy decided to ban Haven at the very start. Envy coming in clutch with the 13-1 here on map 3, bringing that to a 2-1 map score.